Boom, it's cover 2 time. What's up, Warren? How's it going? Warren, of course, here is cover 2, which means we're almost time for the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be an exciting episode. I'm excited to talk about the Bears.
Man, I'm super excited. I mean, if you're a football fan, this is what we all been waiting for. It's been a long off season. I've been waiting for it. You've been waiting for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be all of that. You got the underlying stories as well.
Yeah.
You got Justin Fields versus Trey Lance, of course. I don't know how much of the game is actually going to come down to the arms of Justin Fields and Trey Lance, but that conversation is there, of course, and Darnell Mooney, kind of plays into that with the fact that he says, Justin Fields is a little upset the 49ers passed on him.
He wasn't shy about it.
No, I mean, and that's kind of what happens, right? Randy Moss was a little upset when he got passed and he took it personal. But let's see if it translates to the field and if Justin Fields can get something done with that. But Warren, I wanted to ask you, what are you most excited to see in this game versus the Bears?
So I know everybody's excited to see Trey Lance. And I mean, part of me is I'm excited to see Trey Lance as well. But what I'm most excited to see is Kyle Shanahan. What does he come up with? So we've seen him with Jimmy G. We've seen the Jimmy G offense. We've lived through that for the past few years now.
Very true.
So now this is Trey Lance's team. So he's had 2 years to prep this kid to get ready. So I'm interested to see, because I feel like, to me, Kyle Shanahan is the best. He's the best play caller and the best, play designer to me in the league. So I'm super interested to see what he puts together, what he's had in his back pocket, what he's been hiding from all of us with Trey Lance. So I'm super excited to see what he's going to unleash on the Bears.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't think very many people are talking about how Kyle Shanahan plans to attack, overall the Chicago Bears defense and what he plans to do with Trey Lance and unveil. And I think a lot of it's going to go into run game. I think that's what it's going to play. I think Trey Lance is actually going to be used a lot in the run. You heard John Lynch talking about Kyle Shanahan developing plays after they went and watched Justin Fields' pro day. And those plays were run plays. Those were things that he was excited about doing, using the legs, because what it does is it makes defender make a decision. Are you going to stay at home and play against Trey Lance like you're supposed to, or are you flying down that line of scrimmage to stop the running back? It puts those guys in precarious situations. So you're right. It could be really fun to watch to see how Kyle Shanahan plans on attacking. Also, new defense coming, from Indianapolis to Chicago.
Absolutely.
With the new coach coming in as well. So interesting. I did like that, the way you're coming with Kyle Shanahan. That's most everybody else is more interested in Trey Lance, of course.
Yeah.
Or we're seeing what's going to happen with Deebo Samuel or whatever. So I think that's very interesting. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that. I mean, we haven't had a quarterback really that could run since Cap. So when you got to account for the quarterback, I mean, we all know it's 11 on 11 football. So in that's a game changer. And when you got a mind like Kyle Shanahan, and you give him numbers like that and an advantage like that, man, it's gonna be beautiful, man. I can't wait. I'm so excited to see this season and this Bears game. I really want to see what Shanahan comes out with and blows our mind. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, the scheme is gonna be fun to watch. How Kyle Shanahan schemes this thing up. It could look like some of the same old from the 49ers.
It could, yeah.
But we'll see. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. But right now I want to flip it to the defensive side of the football. Because the 49ers released an unofficial, their media, of course, unofficial depth chart. And on that depth chart, listed next to Talanoa Hufanga, was George Odom. And I want to know from you, Warren, who do you think is going to start? Kyle Shanahan would give nothing away. Kyle Shanahan said he will decide who the starter is minutes before kickoff, which we know is untrue. He's just doing that to the media. But who do you think it's going to be? Will it be George Odom? Will it be Tarvarius Moore? Or could it be somebody they elevate off the practice squad?
I don't know who's going to start, to be honest. I was in the boat previous episodes. I thought Jimmy Ward would be ready to go. I thought it was a little bit of gamemanship, towards the Bears. He might not be ready to go. So, but I guess he's really dealing with something. So, if I had to bet, I would lean on Tarvarius Moore. That's what I would lean on. I know George Odom, he's on the depth chart, he's slotted to start, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. That's honestly one of my biggest worries as well, too. So, I'm going to go, if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Tarvarius Moore.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think it is going to be Tarvarius Moore. I think there could be a little bit of a short leash, and a quick hook. just depending on how he plays. But he makes the most sense. He's the only pure free safety on the current 53-man roster as it's constituted right now. Odom is more of a strong safety look. So if you're rolling out there with two strong safeties, you have to worry about that back end because, yes, you have Tarvarius Moore and you have Emmanuel Mosley, but they have a lot of speed from the receiver group, and you don't want to put those guys out on an island the whole time. And all the while, you don't want to put Samuel Womack in his first start as nickel, in a precarious situation. So you want to make sure you help him out because these safeties are also going to be tasked with helping against Cole Kmet. And that's not going to be easy as well. So I do think Tarvarius Moore makes the most sense. He's very comfortable in this defense. He has the range to be able to cover things in the deep third and come up in the box and make tackles. To me, you're right. That makes the most sense from the safety position. Right. I mean, if they went with Odom, I'd be curious to see how they handle when Hufanga's in the box and when Odom's in the box and how they play that, or, when they go to nickel situations and dime situations, who comes on and off the field. But to me, it seems like it has to be more skill set wise.
I agree. And I mean, Tarvarius Moore, earlier in the preseason, he struggled a little bit against Green Bay. But to finish out the preseason, I feel like he rebounded pretty well. I liked everything I've seen out of him. So to me, that's the reason why I would slot him, and that's who I would want to see starting the game. But what's also interesting is what we talked about on previous episode as well, is if they'll go to a 3 safety look.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm going to keep an eye out for, especially to help out Hufanga. I mean, this is going to be his first year starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I mean, without Jimmy Ward is one of the leaders out there on defense. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment on who's going to fill in for him and how they're going to rebound, to be honest, from his injury.
Yeah. Because if they had Jimmy Ward, I wouldn't be worried about Cole Kmet as much.
Right.
Now, I think he would still get his, but Jimmy Ward could go in there and play man coverage. He can go in there and compete with him over and over. It gives you a lot more flexibility on third down as well. That was one thing DeMeco Ryans liked to do last year, was when it was third and medium, is go ahead and go man across the board, knowing Jimmy Ward could go up there and take away a slot receiver. That's not going to be the case. The way the 49ers play defense is going to be different without Jimmy Ward.
Absolutely.
That's just the pure facts. And so we'll see how they go ahead and handle this position next to him. And one thing they have to do, Warren, is they have to go ahead and add somebody from the practice squad. We know one of them needs to be an offensive lineman because that's what allows you to bring up another player as well. So the offensive lineman can either be Jason Poe or it can be Keaton Sutherland. My guess would be Keaton Sutherland. What do you think about offensive line? Do you think it's going to be Sutherland or do you think it's going to be Poe with the question marks about Daniel Brunskill?
Honestly, on the offensive line, I would say I'd probably lean towards Sutherland. I didn't really get to watch too much of him in the preseason. I know Poe I remember he was getting he was in a little bit of hype during the preseason. But I would lean towards Sutherland being pulled up off the practice squad. I was honestly thinking, since we're talking about safety, Dante Johnson.
Yeah.
That's going to be a position of need for us. We're going to need, and he's so familiar in the defense, and he's been with the Niners for forever. He always goes through preseason with us, and he always ends up on the practice squad. So, to me, that's a position of need. So if we're able to bring up Sutherland, we're going to be able to bring up Dante Johnson as well?
Correct.
Okay.
You're able to bring up one other player you're able to bring up two guys as long as one of those is an offensive lineman.
Okay.
What that does, though, is it makes the 49ers have 11 offensive linemen up on the roster for game day, which is crazy. You wouldn't normally think that's the case, but they went ahead and they claimed Blake Hance. He's somebody that's going to come in that I believe has versatility to play center if needed.
Right.
And it's all to ensure that in case Daniel Brunskill's not ready to go, they have a veteran center that's able to go in there in case something happens to Jake Brendel. Because without there, you can't be rolling out, Nick Zakel that has only had practice reps at center. So that's what it's all about, and that's why Sutherland makes sense on the practice squad.
Right.
But as far as you're right, safety goes, there's three options for him. Tayshaun Gibson, and I believe he's still got to get his footing underneath him. Dante Johnson, who fills a multitude of roles because not only can he help you on special teams, but he also can play safety, like you just brought up, and corner, because the 49ers only have 5 corners. I believe it's tailor-made for Dante Johnson to come up in this game. But they're going to, minus elevating Dante Johnson permanently, they're going to only be able to do this a couple of times. Then it's going to be Gibson until Jimmy Ward gets back. Because once you bring a guy up 3 times, you have to make a decision. You either have to be on the 53-man roster or you have to move on. So they're going to kind of play games, I think, with these guys. But for the first week, to me, it just makes the most sense for it to be Dante Johnson and Keaton Sutherland.
I agree. Dante Johnson, he's going to play a huge role. We may need him, especially if there's an injury. Hopefully there isn't an injury, but I'm definitely in the boat of bringing up Dante Johnson.
Yeah, I do think we need him for sure. Another thing we need to do is we need to keep Justin Fields in the pocket. Do you think the 49ers, they struggled a little bit last year on Halloween, of keeping Justin Fields in the pocket? He kind of got going as the game went on. Do you believe the 49ers can keep Justin Fields in the pocket this week?
It's Justin Fields he's hard to keep in the pocket. As we seen last year when we played against him, he was hard to get to. He just makes so many plays with his legs, and he has a great pocket presence as well. When he feels it's collapsing, he'll get out of the pocket, he'll buy some time, and he'll make a play. So I love our D-line. Our front seven, to me, I think is the best in the league. I think they're going to have their hands full this week, to be honest. Justin Fields is, from what I'm hearing, he's only got better. So he has a full year under his belt. This is going into his second year. What we have playing for us on our side is we have Nick Bosa that kind of knows him. They were in the same locker room with each other in college. So I definitely think it's going to be a tall task keeping him in a pocket. I think we're going to harass him all day. He's going to be under a lot of pressure all day. He's going to be running all day. And I think that's going to wear on him throughout 4 quarters. But I definitely think they have a task on him to keep him in the pocket. He's going to win some reps. We're going to win some reps. But it's going to be a tall task.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they got to do it, number one, they got to stay in their rush lanes. I mean, Absolutely. That's the thing. You can't get too far upfield if you're an edge rusher. You got to make sure you kind of have it a little bit more tight. And then they got to get some pressure from the interior defensive line. And you can't leave avenues to allow him to run. What that means, though, is in the secondary, you're not going to run as much man coverage as you normally would because you don't want to have your back turn and running away from the quarterback. We've seen this happen so many times, with defenses. I mean, Dom Capers from Green Bay was famous for these in those games versus Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. He would have man coverage, and then Kaepernick would take off running, and all the defenders are running away, and Cap's got all this free space to run. So you can't do that very much. But the key to this is not just those lanes. It's also blitzing key guys. If you blitz a slot corner, a nickel corner, if you blitz Samuel Womack off the edge, then he's going to be able to provide a 5-man lane to be able to keep Justin Fields in the pocket and make him try to throw the ball. If you combine that with disguising coverages, running shells, make him think it's one thing, and then seeing it's something else. I went over his preseason film, and it happened to him a few times where they would show a single high safety in a cover 3 look, and then as the snap was about to happen, they would shift to a two deep safety, and you could see Justin Fields locate the 2 deep safeties and hesitate for a second. That hesitation right there is the chance the 49ers need to get Nick Bosa or Samson Ebukam home. But it's all about collapsing this pocket around him combined, not allowing any run lanes, because if he gets them, you're right, he's dynamic enough to make big-time plays, which I saw in that film from the preseason. I saw last year on Halloween. So, yeah, it's something that they have to be very mindful of.
Yeah, it's going to come down to, like you said, I mean, it's gap control football. You want to get after the quarterback, but you got to get after the quarterback. You got to be disciplined. Yeah. Because you leave a lane open and he can exploit it quickly. And like you said, you buy him a little bit of time. It's a 15-yard gain, 20-yard gain, or it's going over your head for a touchdown. I mean, he's done this since I've seen him play. Yeah. So, like I said, they're definitely going to have their hands full. Like you said as well, the secondary, they definitely got to be in zone. They got to have their eyes on the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like stopping this type of quarterback, this type of dynamic quarterback, this new type of quarterback that's in the NFL. I mean, it's all hands on deck. Yeah. So it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I think all you have to do is look at the way D'Amico Ryans attacked Russell Wilson early on in those games against Seattle. That is kind of the prototype in which you want to go after Justin Fields. Is he the deep thrower? Is he the accurate passer that Russell Wilson is? At this point in his career, no. But I think that's his trajectory, right? That's where he's trying to get. Right. So you want to confuse him early, take advantage of the young guy, speed up his recognition, speed up his internal clock, so that he feels he needs to get rid of the football a lot sooner than he does. And I think that is the way you can get after Fields. So Fields is going to be something interesting for them to monitor. And I'll tell you what would really help them. They go ahead and they slow down his run game a little bit. They slow down his running backs like Montgomery. That could help him a lot.
Absolutely.
Now, Warren, what is the 49ers' biggest advantage you feel against the Chicago Bears?
Our biggest advantage, I would say, I would say it's our defensive line. It's our defensive line, our front seven, our ability to get after Justin Fields. It's going to cause havoc. I think he's not going to see a better defensive line all year. It's going to be it's going to be a problem for him all day. If they create havoc all game, Justin Fields we're going to see a different Justin Fields. He's not going to be in rhythm. He's always going to be on the move, having to make decisions on the move. And he's just going to be in pure panic. So I feel like that's one of the main advantages we have on them. I also think one of our other main advantages is, like I said earlier, is Kyle Shanahan, going up against their defense. Like, I believe you give him enough time to scheme against any defense, he's going to exploit it, So, to me, those are the two major advantages I see going into this game.
Yeah, you know what? I think the defensive line is a definite advantage, and part of the reason that's a huge advantage for the 49ers is the offensive line for the Chicago Bears. It's a little bit of a young offensive line. You have guys, of course, they have, Tevin Jenkins, who they tried to trade. They have, Braxton Jones, who they have playing left tackle. There's some young guys there, but they don't really spend a lot of draft capital amongst that offensive line. They pretty much have Whitehair is the guy that's this very secure NFL caliber offensive lineman, and then everyone else is kind of like, we'll see. We'll see what we got here. You throw in the fact that you're gonna have, they claimed Alex Leatherwood from the Raiders. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of where their offensive line is now. I would have been willing to get Leatherwood as well and to see where he's at, because I think if you're talking about him as like a third or fourth round prospect, that would have been legit. Mayock just took him in the first, which makes it worse. But you're right. That's a huge advantage for the 49ers, and that's the thing. And that's why Justin Fields is already prepping the media like, hey, if Bosa goes in there and wins all the time, you just, don't blame the young guy. Like, that's tough. Who's going to beat Bosa? And I think that's going to be a tremendous advantage. And that's the 49ers, way of winning football games all throughout the year, not just against the Chicago Bears. And then you talk about Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, he's going to be able to scheme it up. And, and he's got the personnel to be able to do it, even if they don't have George Kittle. Even if they don't have that playmaker at the tight end spot, if he's not healthy and ready to go, you still have capable bodies with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Raider McLeod, Danny Gray. We didn't even mention any of the tight ends who can all get it done too, because Kroft is a legitimate NFL tight end who can win in the red zone and convert on third down. And also you have Ross Dwelley, who had himself a very impressive training camp in preseason. So I think the 49ers offense is formidable, and it's all really going to come down to the advantage of Kyle Shanahan to scheme up that run game. Because if they get that run game going, they're going to take the pressure off of Trey Lance. It's going to make it easier for this offensive line.
Absolutely. And when you line up a rookie tackle against Nick Bosa, that's barbecue chicken all game.
It is. I mean, that's tough.
Man.
That is so tough. I mean, remember last year, what was it, Penei Sewell?
Yeah.
Penei Sewell's going to line up, against Nick Bosa, and it's like, nothing against Sewell. I mean, he's one of the better players, coming out in that draft. But this is Nick freaking Bosa.
Right.
This is a defensive player of the year caliber player, and you're going to go roll out there with a 5th round pick. Good luck.
Right.
I mean, that's just, I think he's a nice young player. I think he could develop into something, but this isn't the time. Not right now.
No.
This isn't that moment. And now you got to deal with Bosa. Right. He's just a freak. You know what I mean? And the leverage that he's going to be able to play with, he's going to get underneath it. Get ready. Last year, the 49ers got 4 sacks against the Chicago Bears on Justin Fields. And on my game preview show, I predicted in the Wild That's Bold that the 49ers get 5 sacks in this game. I get even more. Just because, the offensive line is a little bit of a weakness for Chicago. Defensive line for the 49ers is a huge strength.
Absolutely. And this Nick Bosa is a freak this year. This might be the best Nick Bosa we've ever seen.
It is.
So, I can't wait for Sunday. It's going to be a massacre.
It is, and you got a better Samson Ebukam.
Yeah.
And you got a Eric Armstead that's playing on the inside. He did not play on the inside against Chicago last year. So this is a different scenario and a different team on defense. Oh, and Kinlaw.
Better Kinlaw, yeah.
A more athletic Kinlaw.
Exactly. In shape Kinlaw.
Ooh, that's scary.
Spelling problems for the Bears.
So we talked big advantage. Now let's talk about the 49ers' biggest concern against the Bears. Where do you think the 49ers' biggest concern is that the Bears can capitalize and take advantage of?
So going back to what we were speaking about earlier, the safety play, I feel like that's our biggest concern, because watching Justin Fields for years, I'm a Michigan fan, and he killed us through the air.
Yeah.
He pushes the ball downfield. He is not afraid to push the ball deep. If we're having issues back there, communication issues, or somebody busted coverage, Justin Fields will make the play.
Yeah.
He's, like I said, he's not shy to push the ball down the field. So I hope going into this game, they have this ironed out. They have who they're going to start, what's going to go on back there, because that's what scares me the most about this game with Justin Fields, because he'll break the pocket and just launch the ball downfield.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the D line, wrecks enough havoc where he doesn't have time. He's always on the run and he's getting sacked. But if he has time, I just hope he doesn't wind up and it just bombs away. That's the biggest thing I'm worried about going into this game against the Bears.
Yeah, the first thing I do as a coach is you recognize like a concern, like you said, about safety, and it's definitely a concern. And then the first thing I want to know is, can I mitigate that by putting in a different player, right? So can I mitigate that by putting Dante Johnson at safety? Maybe. But then again, if I don't feel comfortable with that, I got to mitigate it through scheme or another way. So what do you do right away? The first thing I would do was run more of a 2-deep zone look with the safeties and allow these guys to run man underneath. What that means, though, is you have to spy with a linebacker on Justin Fields. It makes it a little bit more difficult. So you have to do that. That's one way to mitigate. But you can also, by doing that, you can create more time for this pass rush to be able to get home. And that's what it's about, giving this pass rush time to get onto Justin Fields, where he doesn't have those opportunities to challenge a George Odom or Talanoa Hufanga downfield. By doing that and going man underneath, you do leave yourself more susceptible to the run. So the 49ers interior defensive line and linebacker group would have to make sure they can handle it. And that's not easy to do, but it could be something they try to do early on. Is Justin Fields going to be disciplined enough to see 2 deep safeties and check to run every single time he sees it? I don't know if I've seen that. I did not see that on film in the preseason. I don't know if he would do that. He's not a robot like Peyton Manning or Jimmy Garoppolo or Tom Brady, where they see 2 deep safeties, like, oh, we're running. It's a favorable box. So I think that's one thing the 49ers could try early to mitigate, that concern of the safety position. Because I think right now it is a concern until somebody like Tarvarius Moore, somebody like Dante Johnson can prove that they can consistently have good reps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're onto something there, to be honest. I mean, you got to scheme it up. With a player like Justin Fields, and then when you're down, one of the leaders of this defense, and Jimmy Ward, I mean, you have no choice but to scheme it up, because like I said, Justin Fields is not afraid to throw it downfield.
No.
Not afraid at all. And he has the arm to do it. So I'm just hoping the Niners, they got this squared away, like I said, back there in the safety position, and they really focus in on corralling him at the line of scrimmage, getting him down so where he doesn't have the time, like you were saying, to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, that's going to be big. And Tarvarius Ward is a big reason why. I want to see what they do. Can he take away a Darnell Mooney? I mean, can he go out there and handle that? If he can, then that's going to make it easier on everyone else, because then those safeties can go help other places.
Absolutely.
Let's see what happens when you get young Sam Womack out there in the nickel spot. See how he handles some of these speedsters from Chicago. Chicago's not full of big names. There's no Allen Robinson anymore. But what they do have is guys that can move and guys that are fast. You give them the opportunity, they're going to be able to make plays, especially after the catch. But the 49ers have to make sure that they kind of scheme it up, confuse Justin Fields. I think that's a major role that could help alleviate some of these concerns. Now, over on the offensive side of the ball, one of the conversations has been, what is the ratio going to be of 49ers run plays to pass plays? Now, last year, if you look back over the numbers, thanks John Chapman for this, is he went out and figured out the stats. The 49ers averaged about 30 pass attempts per game last year overall. That's with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance splitting, or not really splitting, but Jimmy having most of the time, Trey having some of those reps as well. What do you think it's going to be this year? We know if the 49ers run the ball over 30 times, they have a really good chance of winning. If they run it over 40 times, they're guaranteed a victory. That's just how it's worked. With young Trey Lance being in there, what do you think the ratio of runs to passes?
I would lean more towards that 30-40 number. Just to like you were saying earlier, to get Trey Lance comfortable in the flow of the game. Obviously, it's going to depend on game flow, how the game is going, what's the score. But I think Shanahan's he knows he has a young quarterback. He's going to get him comfortable. He's going to get the running game going. And we know if there's one thing that the Shanahans do well, is run the football. So I definitely see the Niners more so being heavily with the run this game than anything.
Yeah, one thing that's going to be interesting is, here we are talking about that. You know who else knows that? Eberflus. He knows exactly what the 49ers want to do too. They want to run the football. One of the things he was famous for in Indianapolis was walking one of those safeties into the box and creating 8-man boxes. They often had their defense as one of the top 10 rush defenses in the entire league. Now, is this Chicago defense as talented as that Indianapolis Colts defense? No. But one thing he does do is confuse people up front, confuse offensive line blocking with, different stunts from the defensive line. That's one way they can kind of do that as well. So I'm wondering, does Kyle Shanahan come out and try to take advantage of some of those 8-man boxes by getting Trey Lance outside the pocket and allowing him to throw the football to kind of soften this defense early on? Do we get a Jimmy Garoppolo style defense where people are coming up and loading the box? Are they going to make Trey Lance prove that he can beat them first before? Now, it could be null and void. It might not matter at all. 49ers might be able to run against an 8-man box. I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm just wondering, knowing the way that these guys attack, different offenses, if they do bring those guys up and force Trey to go ahead and prove that he can get it done.
It's going to be interesting to see, because the biggest question mark I have going into this game is, are we going to see more of the offense similar to the Arizona game last year, where we seen Trey Lance run a ton?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you run your quarterback, you're putting him at risk to get hurt. And actually, that's what happened with Trey Lance in that game. So it's going to be interesting to see, what type of running game is Shanahan going to unleash against the Bears? Is it going to be, are we going to see more of, Trey Lance involved in the running game? I mean, how much are we going to see Debo in the backfield? How many carries is Mitchell going to get? How much are we going to see with Jeff Wilson?
Yeah.
Or, Ty Davis Price? So it's just overall, the running game is going to be very interesting to see how it's being unveiled.
Yeah, it will. And, you got a defense that's going to be predicated on causing problems in the backfield, penetration, aggressiveness is what you're going to get from this defensive line. So if you can take advantage of it, catch them in a stunt the wrong way, you can have big plays. So there's big playability for this 49ers offense. I can't wait for Elijah Mitchell to get out there. That's one of the things that I'm really excited about, because when I was at training camp, I got to watch Mitchell, and he was just so dynamic. The one cut and go, he was seeing vision. His second level elusiveness was at another level than we saw last year. So I'm really excited to see how he runs, and I think Jeff Wilson Jr. as well. So I'm very curious about that. And all the while, I know that getting these young offensive linemen moving forward and blocking in the run game will definitely help them later on, because if they have to drop back and pass block in traditional pass sets, not only are those young guys going to have problems up front dealing with stunts and being able to pass guys off, but Mike McGlinchey will struggle as well, because that's not something that he does at a high level. Right. You got Mike McGlinchey run blocking, he's fantastic, one of the best in the league. You got Mike McGlinchey running slide protection or running a play action type scheme. He's one of the better ones to do that. He can handle those situations. We don't want 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and Robert Quinn lined up against Mike McGlinchey. That's not the situation we want for the offensive line. That's not the situation we want for Trey Lance.
No, we don't want to see that at all. The Bears know this.
Yeah,
the Bears know this going into the game. If I was to go into their locker room today, I'm pretty sure their number one game plan is stop the run. So
I think anytime you see Kyle and the 49ers come to town, you're like, stop
the run. Exactly.
That's number one. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I'm definitely fascinated to see what the Bears do, and then, like I said, how we unveil our running game with Trey Lance. Because honestly, I feel like with Trey Lance, the running game could be more dynamic.
It will be more dynamic for the mere reason you have to account for him. You brought it up earlier in the show. 11-on-11 football is here, and the reason is you have to make sure you know where Trey Lance is at all times. It could be a give. It could be a give. It could be a give, and then all of a sudden, that one time you do something wrong as a defensive player and you get down the line of scrimmage, he pulls and he runs around the outside and he has a big play. And all the while, if you're holding ground where you're supposed to, it's going to create run lanes for these running backs to be able to get upfield and get vertical.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things the 49ers have the backs to be able to physically wear you down. And the whole time, if you can get 12, 13 play drives that produce points, you're keeping your defense off the field, which means a fresher Nick Bosa, a fresher Eric Armstead. And that's not good for any of these other teams along the way. So I think that is the game plan. That's the blueprint that the 49ers want to employ.
I agree with that.
And so with that, Warren, we've talked about this team now. The 49ers versus Bears score prediction. Now, I'll tell you what mine was, because everyone got a taste of it on the game preview show. Was I have the 49ers winning 23-13. I think that it's going to be a little bit more low scoring than some people think. You add in the fact you're going to have weather, possibility of rain, some wind as well, maybe up to 17 miles per hour. Not crazy, especially in that area, but I thought it was enough to keep this low scoring. And the 49ers, though, I think the defense is just so good.
Right.
It's going to be hard to score on them. So 23-13 was where I went.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to dominate. They're going to dominate the day, and the running game is it's going to take us home. We're going to get to see what we got in Trey Lance, especially on the road in Chicago. In some weather, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
So I have the Niners winning this Sunday. I have it 20-10.
Ooh, 20-10. I like that.
10.
Another 10-point victory. I think we're in agreement, which means the 49ers would more than cover the spread, which is exciting. And thank you so much, Warren. What a great episode getting to talk about this 49ers versus Bears. We're looking forward to next week's where we can break down the Niners versus Bears game and then look forward to those dang Seattle Seahawks with Pete Carroll coming to town chomping on that dang dumb.
I hope we get over our Seattle Blues.
I think this is it. I think Geno Smith being named quarterback one is all I needed to hear. And I'm excited. I think Seattle in the future, they got some young players that are going to develop.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this year the 49ers can definitely handle business. But you have to go get it done on the field, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for watching. I would like to say that, tomorrow there's going to be an episode coming out of what is the game plan. I'm getting really in-depth on the 49ers offensive game plan against the Chicago Bears, defensive game plan as well, how they're going to stop Justin Fields. Make sure to check that out at 11. Also, on Patreon, there is a full breakdown of the Chicago Bears. It's a scouting report. Go there and see from a coaching perspective how you approach breaking down film and how you attack these certain teams. All that is available. All the while, if you've been on the channel, you know that there's a game preview show out there. Later tonight, there is Jay in the Bay is going to be on with his What's Good show. Check that out as well. Stuff all week long on 49ers Cutback. Plus, after the game, full reaction. Come through. Let me know what you thought of the game. Conversate with me. We'll have a lot of fun. Excited about everything, but just so much content all over the channel and over on Patreon, including full shows over there that are not shown on YouTube, like Slightly Offsides and 49ers Face Off. Just so much good stuff, Warren. Sorry, I had to go for the full plug. I didn't even tell anyone to like or subscribe, but they could do that too.
I agree. I mean, this is the best. This is the best time of year. So, I mean, there's Niner content everywhere.
There is.
If you're a Niner fan, I mean, tune in.
Yeah.
Tune in.
Exactly. And all the while, there's news episodes. I have news updates coming out every day as well.
Right.
Whew, just so much stuff. All the recordings are coming, but you know what we don't have to wait for very much longer. 49ers football, it's here. 49ers for Chicago Bears. It's going to be an exciting one, Warren. I can't wait for it. And I can't wait to see how these guys handle the Chicago Bears in Chicago.
I can't wait either.
All right, everyone. You guys have a good one. We'll catch you on the next episode.